Good day and welcome to Philosophy G. My name is Krishen Thanasegaran. Today we will be discussing an issue that has always been a pervasive part of our society, gender stereotypes. So what are gender stereotypes? The UN defines them as a generalized view or preconception about attributes or characteristics, or the roles that are ought to be possessed by or performed by women and men. A gender stereotype is harmful when it limits women's and men's capacity to develop their personal abilities, pursue their professional careers, or make choices about their lives. According to a survey carried out by View, 82.5% say that they have experienced gender stereotypes, and 44.7% of which are men and 55.3% who are women. As we explore more on this topic, do stay tuned and feel free to engage in this conversation by leaving us comment below. And today we are having guest on Philosophy News here, Dr. Shifa, who is a research journalist and post PhD in gender studies. She will help us to determine what kind of issues we're dealing with when we talk about gender stereotypes. So, Doctor, what can you tell us about this issue?
Thank you for everything. As we delve into the topic, we are going to be looking at a few examples of gender stereotypes in different regions and how they're in the world. We could begin with India, which falls at number 135 out of 146 countries. This gives it the title of 12th worst gender gap in country. This score is a reflection of their society, their traditions and beliefs, one of which is that a wife has to always obey her husband. A survey was conducted in 2019 and 2020, and 64% agreed with the statement. This shows that the society believes men are more capable and equipped to lead a household than women.
What is wrong with choosing men to lead? Is there any harm to that?
This statement alone isn't harmful, but it doesn't simply end there because it leads to an increase in amount of violence against women and children.
Now let's welcome Dr. Nonoko, who also a research journalist. So we are now going to be covering a country that has better gender gap index than Malaysia. But what about when it makes one bit more complex, Doctor?
We are going to be looking at Japan, which is sitting on 116 and out of 146 on the index. However, due to cultural expectations and norms, we're seeing a high number of deaths being attributed to the stereotype that says it a main job to support the family as a full-time worker until retirement.
But a lot of people would agree with this stereotype. Isn't that how this society used to be not long ago?
Yes, to the fact. However, we need to understand that stereotype the not stand alone. The men are also required to be strong, show little emotion, and be reliable in the workplace, and now feel pressures and eventually overwhelmed by the expectation placed on them, and it becomes even worse with things like divorce and losing the job.
Thank you, Doctor. we have final country to look at, and this country has been the focal point in discussions about gender inequality. What's your take on this situation, Dr. Jaden?
Well, Afghanistan has the lowest score gender index, and it has long history of being very strict about the roles of men and women in their society. And this is attributed largely to the religion of Islam, and it's a league which has meant to serve them force. An example, the women would not need access for education. And although according to Islam's religion, the religious texts, the Quran and Testament are not prohibited foster, and it is in fact encouraged for both men to pursue knowledge which they consider as a right given to them by
We carry out a survey using Google Forms with criteria for people living in Malaysia. This survey had 103 responses, 44.7% which were male, whereas 55.3% which were female. Approximately 3.9% were age 17 and below, 90.3% were between the age of 18 to 24, 3.9% were between the age of 25 to 30, and lastly, 1.9% were between 51 and 60. Within this sample, they are 82.5% said that they have experience with gender stereotypes, with 17.5% saying otherwise. In this survey, we asked questions. Do you think gender stereotypes are enforced by the family? And the results were a majority of 64% saying yes. Social learning theory, which claims that gender roles are formed and acquired through punishment and modeling, and reinforcement under the influence of Confucianism that shapes our society. People are rewarded for conforming to gender roles and punished for breaking them. Furthermore, individuals are likely to mimic and learn many of their gender roles by mimicking the behavior of their social circles, such as their parents and family members. Another question we asked was, do you support gender stereotypes and why? The results showed that 95.7% of survey participants answered no, and 4.2% answered yes. The philosophical perspective of logic in the survey data shows that survey does understand the imbalance and does not support the stereotypes through the logical reasoning. That will be not fair to other gender, which is at a disadvantage. They should not be a social norm that labels on people. Judging people before understanding them often leads to assumption of a person different from reality. This assumption tend to cause imbalance in society, giving advantage only to a certain group of people while wearing down the others. The last question we'll be covering from the survey is there any particular field which you think men and women are not treated equally? Many believe and agree that men and women are in fact not treated equally in certain fields such as in politics, IT, construction, and police. Generally speaking, women are found to have been paid less than men for reasons that they attain lesser education and knowledge compared to men, due to facilitated and enforced religious ideologies and beliefs. On the other hand, it is also possible for men to face certain issues, such as the ideology of a man's responsibility to earn money for his family in order to survive. Sometimes, pressuring men leads to a point where they begin to follow stereotypes bestowed upon them in which men openly display less emotion and affection towards their own family. It is clear that both men and women face inequality wherever they go. Whether or not it has been normalized since the beginning, there will always be a question about how one gender was treated differently than the other. Our findings of our topic leads to Confucianism, which is considered one of the most influential religious philosophy in Malaysia. It originated in ancient China and it is a philosophical and ethical teaching system founded and named after the philosopher Kongzi in the 6th century BC. This philosophy was further developed by his disciples. The teachings of Confucianism are based on three essential values. First is devotion to family, humanity, and last is ritual. There is no mutual incompatibility between the core values of Confucianism and the advocacy of women. The incompatibility comes from how Confucianism has historically been practiced. Confucians saw women as belonging to a different social class than men, since texts do not explicitly state women and men belong to the same social class. Philosophers studying them may regard women as inferior. Even if the suppression of women was not the primary goal of Confucianism, it is undeniable that Confucian principles contributed to it.
Prevention is better than the cure. The first thing we can do is teach kids the proper system of value which shows them not to discriminate by gender. Kids should be taught that both men and women are deserving of equal treatment. As for those who are older, it may be difficult to change their mindsets, but we can try by advocating and raising awareness.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jaden. So, when it comes to gender stereotypes, a one-fits-all solution might not be possible, but we could begin by treating each other with care and respect. That would make a world of a difference. Comment down below what kind of solutions you think would work for different kinds of gender stereotyping people face. Thank you for following along, and we hope this insight may bring awareness and encourage discussion. Thank you.
Yeah.